Hi, can everyone hear me? Good. I don't know if this mic's on or not, but I'll just keep talking loudly in case it's not. Hi, I'm Matt. This is me, or it's a selection of words meant to represent me. So I'm a consultant in this space, and really my speciality is digital talent attraction, with a big focus on social and an absolutely massive focus on mobile. Hence the title of my talk today. So in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking about the mobile landscape, persuasion and conversion, and also, because I think it's really important to do this in this kind of presentation, some of the practicalities in a case study around what's going on with mobile. But before that, I want to play a game based in your imagination. So obviously, we're kind of a bit squeezed in today. I can see it's sort of standing room only and there's people outside. So I want you to imagine that you're in Wembley Stadium. I don't know if you've ever been there. If you haven't, imagine that there's a picture of it. Imagine you're there. Imagine you're in the, the top, the kind of top tier. Now, while I'm speaking, what's going to happen is someone with a kind of this magical device is going to put one drop of water in the center circle of the pitch, and every minute they're going to put another drop of water that's double the size of the previous drop. So the question that I'm posing, which I'm going to answer at the end of the presentation and explain why on earth I'm getting you to think this way, is how long until we all drown? So how long until the water reaches us right at the top of the stadium? So park that for now, but keep processing it. So let's talk about mobile landscape. I think it's very easy sometimes to see mobile when it comes to recruitment as just another channel, just another add-on. So we do desktop and we have we have a small budget for mobile and we'll do a mobile site, a mobile add-on. What we really have to realise though is we're moving to a whole nother age. And if you think about how you consume the internet these days, what devices you use at home, the fact that most of you have probably got 2 phones in your pocket and a tablet in your bag. We really are moving away from the age of desktop into the age of devices, and that's kind of really borne out in terms of internet traffic coming from mobile devices, but also the amount being sold and the significant reduction in PC and laptop sales. When I talk about mobile recruitment, people often say, well, who wants to apply for a job when they're on the tube? Sometimes it's easy to think of mobile as being something you do when you're on the move, when you're going between meetings, when you're traveling. But actually, looking at these stats, these are from a Google survey that's permanently running. 89% of people, when they're using the mobile internet, are doing that at home. 56% do it at work. 66% of people are doing it on the move. So using your mobile to access the internet at home is by far the biggest use case of mobile internet. Now, if we think about our audience in terms of people searching for jobs, people researching companies, the type of people that you need to persuade to join your organization, I would imagine that not very many of them are going to be looking for a new job at their desk at work during the day. I would imagine that most of that audience, and in fact the LinkedIn's data, job board data in terms of traffic analysis really bears this out. The people are looking for job opportunities and career information when they're outside the office. So by default, it's highly likely they're doing that on a mobile device. Huge amounts of talk over the last sort of 4 or 5 years about social media. I don't know if it's up for discussion today, but I know that many of you, look very carefully at how you use LinkedIn and how you use Facebook and how you use Twitter. What you have to bear in mind is the majority of traffic that you're generating that's going to your recruitment site from jobs that you're tweeting or your Facebook page or activity on LinkedIn. People are consuming that on a mobile. So, this is a year old, this stat. So 4 out of 5 daily users logging onto Facebook every day. If you look at the stats, something like 75% of Facebook users normally use it on a mobile. Even LinkedIn, 41% of LinkedIn's use is now on a mobile, and they're aggressively targeting that, taking that over 50% for this year. So if you think about it, the majority of the potential traffic that you could take through to any recruitment marketing that you're hosting or your ATS or whatever it is coming potentially from a mobile phone. Mobile's very important in terms of search as well. So I know a number of you are probably paying attention to the SEO of your career site and doing Google AdWords advertising and all that sort of stuff. Google is obviously fanatical about mobile because Google obviously built Android, which is the most popular mobile phone software platform. And Google's continually making changes to its search algorithm. It already penalizes sites that don't have a mobile optimized version. Shortly, they're going to start penalizing sites that take more than a second to download download on a mobile. And that's quite dramatic news because lots of people who are building what they think are mobile optimized sites are actually breaking this rule because of the way that they're building the site. So mobile, not a kind of a tick box, it's something that you need to pay really careful attention to. But this is probably the biggest news of all. There's huge amounts of surveys that say the same thing, that basically either at some point this year or very early next year, the UK internet traffic as a whole is going to tip. And the majority of UK internet traffic is going to come from mobile devices. So that's kind of fundamental when we think, because when we think about online recruitment, we're always setting it up for desktop first. We're always imagining that people are going home, booting up an old Windows PC, searching for jobs and using your lovely job search engine and then going through a 15-page application form on their desktop. But that doesn't correlate with the user behavior and the facts of actually what's going on. So I think it's a big wake-up call for recruiting in terms of thinking about how we're targeting this audience. Now I know I wasn't here for all the presentations this morning, but I know that people were talking about skill shortages and some of those videos people were talking about the competition for talent and all those kind of things. Really having mobile at the center of your strategy is going to be a key part of getting the best talent to your organization. Just a couple of stats to finish this little section. 70% of mobile searchers act within an hour, only 30% of PC searchers do. What that means is we behave in a very device-specific way. So when we're looking at stuff on the mobile internet, whether it's on a tablet or on a phone, we want to find information very, very quickly. Mobile's a very action-orientated medium. I'm on there, I've only got a small screen, I've only got a limited amount of time. If I'm at home, it's probably competing with the television or the other 97 devices that I've got open at any one time. So serving people the information they need is very, very important. In terms of recruitment marketing, digital recruitment marketing, we're very bad at doing that. We're very good at sending people to very, very big, generic corporate career sites where it takes them ages to find the information that they need and the jobs that they're looking for. So it's essentially a whole other way of thinking about how you target information. In terms of recruitment, this is from a Google consumer survey of last year. And going through Google search engine, they've basically come out with this stat that 88% of UK job seekers used a mobile at some point last year to search for a job. So really, I kind of hate sort of bombarding presentations with loads and loads of stats, but these are incredibly compelling, stats from some very, very, very trustworthy sources. So there are lots of things I could talk about when it comes to mobile, but as I'm limited by time, I want to talk about persuasion and conversion. Now, what I'm finding from working with my clients at the moment, a number of organizations that I'm working with are recruiting proactively for the first time in sort of 3 or 4 years. So they've always kind of had churn, but they're actually going out having to hire several hundred people in digital or new salespeople or all that kind of stuff. And for many years, they've not had to do any kind of persuasion to get talent to join their organization. There's been, too many applications, all that kind of stuff. So I think that many organizations have a real persuasion problem. We focus on how can we use social media to find people? How many people can we find on LinkedIn? What's our apply process look like? How can we sift these people? And there's a real gap in the middle about how can we persuade the best people to join our organization. And I would say that, if you don't have the talent that you're looking for coming through your processes, you have a persuasion problem. If you have too many types of the wrong application coming through your process, you also have a persuasion problem because you're not persuading those people that this isn't the opportunity for them. So very often one of the objections that seems to sort of fly up for mobile is like, well, if I make it easy for people to find information about my company, I'll get loads of inappropriate applications. And really that just seems like a bit of a bonkers excuse for me, a bit of a bonkers reason when, many employers are really struggling to find, that top talent. So I think there's a big kind of persuasion problem, and that's probably a topic of another presentation. But let's look at how mobile might play a part in this, in the kind of mechanics of this persuasion. So these are sort of some typical activities that you might be doing to market yourself, to attract talent to your organization. So social media, SEO, email, and advertising. If we pull this in, so social media, as I said, at least 60% of social media usage is being done on a mobile. SEO, Google desktop search is declining in favor of Google mobile search. And as I say, Google is really, really pushing the mobile agenda because it's massively within its interest to do so. Because it can take over the world with Android. Email, I can imagine that most of you read most of your email on your phone. In fact, I can see a number of you checking your email at the moment. Luckily not that many, but a few. So again, any links that you send to someone in an email, the first impression they're going to get is via mobile. And then finally, advertising. Now, I'm going to talk about this at the end, but if you look at most job boards, they're currently anywhere between 25 and 40% of their traffic is on mobile, and it's doubling exponentially every year. So, basically, this whole kind of persuasion, this registration process, you may well be leaking the best talent because you don't have that sort of, that mobile bridge within the middle. Now, the case study I'm going to show you in a few slides' time does have fully enabled mobile applications. So this company, you can actually apply for a job on a phone. That's problematic for a number of organizations because they might have very, very long application processes. They might have a very uncooperative ATS. Well, that's probably highly likely, actually. And I don't want that to put you off because there are still things that you can do at the front part of this persuasion process, even if you do, for now, have to send people off back to a desktop to apply. So there's really shades of grey with this. It's not black and white. Just because your ATS fundamentally can't handle anything to do with mobile, that doesn't mean you can't do it. So I just want to kind of put that out there because sometimes people sort of default and say, well, I can't do it because our process doesn't let us. So some practicalities. Unfortunately, when it comes to recruiting, we tend to live in this kind of a world. So when the internet came along, we sort of took everything that we did with newspapers and typed CVs and sort of moved that online. And what I'm seeing now is organizations are trying to take what they do on the desktop internet and just kind of translate it to mobile without thinking that mobile might be a different channel altogether. So unfortunately, I would say the majority of you in the room, and I hope I can convince at least a few of you otherwise, are probably going to spend the next 18 months, 2 years, trying to make your desktop career site work on a mobile. And you might have some success with that, but ultimately it's going to be an expensive, resource-intensive failure of a process because in 2 or 3 years' time, you're going to be doing something very, very different. So you can't just take what you do on desktop and say it's going to work on mobile, but it's just going to be a bit smaller. You really need to kind of rethink it. I'm going to show you an example of someone rethinking that in a second. Also, I think the biggest issue is speed. When we're talking about, I do a lot of work with companies who are, updating their corporate career site and all that kind of stuff. And speed is always a problem. It's always like a 1 to 2 year process. There are multiple stakeholders. And really, this space moves so fast. Candidate behavior is changing so quickly. The technology is moving very fast. We need to look at ways of how we can do this quicker. How can we get around the internal silos and the politics and the, and the budget issues and kind of move quicker towards the talent that we need. So I just want to finish with a case study. This is from a fairly well-known UK insurance comparison site. So they have a really cool mobile-enabled persuasion process, for want of a better word, for technology hires that they're recruiting. So the first thing they do is they use something called adaptive mobile design, which is device-specific. So their site basically is served up in a different format depending on the device that's being used. One of the biggest challenges with mobile is device fragmentation. So everyone in your recruitment team might have a nice shiny new iPhone or probably a 10-year-old BlackBerry, but your target audience may well have a very, very different device. If you're recruiting outside of the UK, it's even more. It's kind of even more telling. So, you have Firefox's mobile operating system, which is growing in some countries. In countries like Singapore, they prefer using what are called phablets, which are kind of halfway between a phone and a phablet, halfway between a phone and a tablet. I think I'm about the only person I know who's got one in this country. But if you're reaching out to that audience, that's the best-selling device out there. So thinking about adaptive design is the words to kind of go away and look up. Many of you may be working with ad agencies or marketing agencies who are telling you about responsive web design. Adaptive web design is one stage further than responsive web design, and sometimes responsive design on its own can cause problems. So what's the candidate journey with this particular site? So they advertise their jobs in the same way that you guys probably do. In this case, there's some listings on Indeed, there's some social media activity, some sourcing on LinkedIn, all the things that you'd expect to do to recruit people in the UK. But then the candidates are going through this mobile journey if they're accessing this information on a mobile phone. And rather than having a full version of their career site where people can get lost trawling through pages, it's a very, very specific targeted mobile site at that particular audience, which really kind of speaks to the way that mobile works. And finally, they've kind of got a fully mobile-enabled apply process, so you can basically apply with a Monster profile, a LinkedIn profile, a Dropbox CV, coming soon to this Google Drive, GitHub profile, all that kind of stuff. So this is very, very possible, and it's actually possible without having to spend a huge amount of money and redesign, the whole of your corporate career site, which is hopefully the good news I can bring to the presentation. So. To finish off, do you remember this from the beginning? It seems like an age ago, but it wasn't that long ago. So we've been sitting in our Wembley Stadium, and we've had this drop of water doubling in size, being dripped into the middle every kind of minute. And the question was, how long until we drown or swim out the top or whatever it is? So after 45 minutes of this dropping process, the stadium is still 95% empty. So if I was kind of planning my escape, I'd be looking at that and thinking, you know what, I have got bags of time, because in 45 minutes, only 5% of the stadium is filled with water. 5 minutes later, we have to swim out, because that's how exponential growth works. And exponential growth in the internet and in mobile has caught a huge amount of industries by surprise. So, the traditional camera industry, the music industry, and it's mainly because of this effect. The fact that you can see change coming, but you think you have loads of time. And actually, when things are growing exponentially, you don't. So how does this relate to the recruitment industry? And it really relates on this graph. The best and most public measure of what candidates are doing in terms of mobile for recruitment is to actually look at job board traffic. So to actually look at a lot of the job boards, will publish or will talk about the percentage of traffic that they have that comes from the mobile internet. Back in 2010, which is a mere 3 years ago, or just over 3 years ago, that traffic was at 3%. So it's 3% of their traffic. If you fast forward to now, that says now, not no W, formatting issue. If you fast forward to now, that traffic is somewhere between 25 and 40%. And it's basically doubled every year for 3 years. So this kind of, these growth curves are very common. You can see them in lots of things. So what that effectively means, and this kind of is borne out with LinkedIn as well, 41% of LinkedIn's traffic being mobile. What that means, over the next year to 18 months, that will double again, and then 80% of their traffic will come from mobile, and whether they like it or not, they're going to be mobile, they'll be mobile companies. So that's my kind of passing thought. It might seem that there's lots of time to fix your website. I know that companies I speak to say, we know we've got to do something on mobile, but we've slated it in for late 2015. If you leave it that late to start the process, you are going to miss out on some of the talent you need. So, key points to summarise. The majority of your traffic will soon be mobile, whether you like it or not. The opportunity, I think, to get competitive advantage over the people you're recruiting against is enormous. If you don't do anything, it will become a threat very, very quickly in terms of the best talent coming to your organisation. This is all about experimentation and optimising. It's not about having to take a 150-page corporate career site and try and make it work on a screen that big. It's trying to pick audiences and pick approaches, so it's a different way of thinking about it. You need something that works on every device of your target audience. So thinking about, what kind of device or operating system do my target audience use is important. And I think that ultimately, reducing a friction in the apply process is going to be essential. So that might be difficult at the moment because you have kind of set processes that take a very long time to change. If we kind of fast forward 3 or 4 years, you will have had to change your recruitment process in some way to reflect the fact that fewer people are using keyboards. So that's just a kind of a future thought. That's everything I want to say. I'm here all day. I'm here this afternoon. Please email me if you've got any questions about how to start this process. And that's it. Thank you.